Hello everyone and welcome back to Tokyo on Fire. Today is November 10th, 2016. Today I'm joined by my regular co-host, Dr. Nancy Snow. Nancy?
Hi, how are you?
Dr. Nancy Snow is at Kyoto University of Foreign Studies. I'm also joined by Michael Chuchek. Michael Chuchek is adjunct professor at Waseda University and at Temple University in Japan. Also, once again, we have the pleasure of having Glen Fukushima on the show today. Thank you, Glen.
Good to be here.
Glen is with the Center for American Progress, and what an epical 24 hours we have had. Glen, you're watching this too.
Right.
Lots of things are going up in the air. A lot of predictions have come out to be false, and the predictions that have been made even in the foreign ministry has caused a little bit of confusion, don't you think?
Well, I think most people in Japan and also in the United States thought that Hillary Clinton was going to win. So I think many people were surprised. I think I've only been here for a few days, but I get the impression here as well that many people were caught off guard.
Right. The reactions here in Tokyo, I mean, they're just coming to the fore. The Dow took a hit. Also, the Nikkei took a hit. Michael, you're watching that as well?
And that the Nikkei went down yesterday. What it's going to do in regards to the fact that the Dow went up for some reason, I don't know why. But the yen also soared yesterday in value as Japan is a reserve currency, and the unrest and instability that's been caused by this unexpected victory has caused a lot of consternation in the markets. Yeah.
Dr. Snow.
Wow.
What does this have to do with the branding of the Trump presidency?
I'm actually quite excited about what has happened because I want to mention the speeches, first by President-elect Trump. He was probably his most presidential that we've seen in his rhetoric, followed by then Hillary Clinton. I stayed up and watched it when she gave her concession speech. And it was perhaps the speech of her life. And it's interesting in defeat how this type of richness comes to the fore. She showed more emotion than people had seen in a while. And then the topper for me, I was never more proud of President Obama, who said we have to come together as a country. I would like to see that. I don't expect it. The country will remain very divided. But in terms of America's image in the world, it was one that I hope people will hold on to and go back to. Those three in succession, look at those speeches.
Well, the reactions in the United States aren't really reflected with what we experience here in Japan. And we've got basically two kind of audiences. We've got the purely Japanese audience and we have the foreign community here. And my sense is that the foreign community here was largely leaning towards Hillary Clinton. Wouldn't you agree with that, Glen?
That's my impression. I think a lot of people who are involved in international affairs have thought because Hillary Clinton's experience in the State Department and so forth that she was more perhaps qualified to be president.
The Japanese, don't they tend to prefer a Republican administration than a Democratic one?
I think traditionally since the 1980s that's been true. It's certainly been my observation. But I think that this year it's an exception because I think that that Donald Trump really doesn't represent the kind of mainstream Republicans that the Japanese are used to. In fact, many of the mainstream Republicans Japanese are used to have come out publicly supporting Hillary Clinton or publicly saying that they couldn't support Donald Trump. So I think there are very few people around Trump who are known in Japan.
It's a whole new ball of wax, isn't it? And it seems to me that a lot of people who were supporting Trump just kept their mouths shut. They didn't really campaign for him or get in, ballroom fights on his behalf, and they let the Clinton campaign kind of weigh the discussions. And my sense is, I don't know if you agree with it, but that Tokyo was largely Democratic leaning.
Oh, yeah, sure. Actually, not that I'm a Trump supporter per se, but last week the Japan Times ran a lengthy piece, and it was sort of a funny tongue-in-cheek about trying to find any Trump supporters in Japan.
Oh, that's right.
And I was contacted by that reporter because I could see the value in a Trump presidency.
Where are they?
And I told him that I had not voted for Trump, but that nevertheless I would live with the outcome of what the American people wanted because that's the democratic process. Now, he didn't go with me. He ended up saying he really couldn't find any women who would actually stand in support of Trump because of the women issue. And But I think that we might be a bit surprised at how he is as president. Now, maybe I have alternative media sources, but this groundswell of support is there, and he's got to be accountable now to the American people as a whole. And back to his speech, he said, I want to work with everybody. So it's very interesting. It reminded me of the John McCain of 2000, who was very inclusive and said, I want to hear from and receive support from people across the political spectrum.
Right.
Now, whether or not they will show and support him is another story. But I would work for Trump. I would work in his administration, hands down, in a second.
Yes.
And the reason being because he's going to need mediators. Mm-hmm. And I've worked with people my entire life from across the political divide. And that was a strength of Hillary Clinton, by the way, as a senator from New York. That's where she really was shining at that time in her political career. And it'll be interesting to see what she goes on to next, whether it will be with the Clinton Foundation or something else. But I really felt like I wish I had seen that Hillary Clinton earlier when she gave her concession speech. She didn't connect emotionally with the voters the way that Trump was able to.
Right.
But what is he going to do in terms of his relations with the rest of the world? Honestly, the entire foreign policy community was against him. And that's including the Republican side. Longtime Republicans all came out, especially the Asia specialists, whom have been cultivated by the Japanese. There is a very, very close financial relationship between the associations and the think tanks that specialize in Asia and the Japanese government. And all of those people turned against Trump.
Sure.
And at that point, who is he going to have giving him advice? How is the government here going to respond? I mean, it's absolutely, this has absolutely shattered the basic premises of Japanese policy. Japanese policy is always based on the idea the United States will always be there to back us up at the end of the game.
Right.
But that's no longer in play.
I disagree.
According to what Mr. Trump has said, and according to what his supporters want, and he must answer to his supporters.
Okay.
He is not the president for the entire United States. That's bullshit.
Okay, Michael.
That's wrong.
Calm down.
He is, no, I'm sorry. He is not.
This is on fire. Right?
Okay, he's hashtag not my president.
He's not hashtag
Join
my
the crowd.
president because I don't trust the means by which he was elected. Okay.
You think it was rigged?
There is involvement by the Russian government that is undeniable, both in terms of infiltrating the Democratic parties, various offices, including the election committee of the now defeated candidate. There is also a very clear evidence that there are hundreds of bots that are operated by Russians or by persons allied with Russian intelligence that have been filling the internet with messages. Now, that's possibly why there is no connection between the elite normal media, no major newspaper came out in favor of Trump.
Of course
not. No
not.
major magazine. Of course
They
not.
were
Is nothing.
completely biased
They are
against
not
Trump.
completely biased. They are indeed trying to do their jobs. That's not bias. That's your job.
Media had no credibility.
Media have no credibility is the talk of someone who no longer believes in the elites and who follows whatever they find on the internet. And that is a dangerous thing because that is not filtered. And that is completely open. It's a part of America that heretofore has never been defended. And it can't be defended because there is no way to stop the flood of misinformation, malinformation, or simple lies that can come through, and it becomes a truth for a person who is otherwise alienated and does not have some kind of elite to look up to.
And you know what? That's the United States of America who just elected President Trump. And the Los Angeles Times, the Washington Post, the New York Times, they all came out against him. He became a monster. He became a Hitler. How well did that work out for them? They are eating crow today. And I've been hearing from journalists, and I'm not going to name names, but they said we were biased and we didn't do our jobs and we have to take account for that now. So yes, was I looking at InfoWars and Breitbart and Drudge Report? Drudge Report is a collection of links to many sources, not just people scrambling sort of beneath the subway in New York City. You're so dismissive of the American people, and I don't appreciate that whatsoever. The people have voted. President Obama said the people have voted. Hillary Clinton said the people have made their choice. And I'm coming behind them because for the good of the country, we have to go forward now and support the person we have in place.
Mm-hmm. Now,
what's the alternative?
The alternative is resistance at all levels. There is
so you're going to protest outside Trump Towers. Let them go ahead.
Well, that's what we thought would happen if Hillary won, that there would be a huge backlash and people would be showing up at the White House carrying arms.
That's the American way, right?
It's not the American way. And the thing is that the old Ian Fleming rule was once is an incident, twice is coincidence, 3 times is enemy action. In this case, we have the Brexit situation, we have the victory of right-wing parties in the German elections. In every case, there has been found evidence of Russian interference. If you're willing to have a pro-Russian candidate as your president, fine, I'm not. And I don't think that the people here in Tokyo are fools about this. I think that the people here in Tokyo are very careful and know that their relationship with the entire world has changed and that the United States is not there to back them up. What do you think, Glenn?
Well, it's difficult to know what a Trump administration is going to be because it's so difficult to figure out what he really believes and what he will really do. I mean, he says he'll build a wall, prevent Mexicans from immigrating to the United States. Well, okay, so is he actually going to do this? And is he going to try to do it? And if he does try to do it, is he going to be successful? I mean, there is Congress, there's the media, there's the business community, there are all kinds of organizations that may try to restrict his ability to do that. But I mean, he said so many things. And so, who do you believe? Do you believe the guy who says that no Muslim should be allowed to come to the United States? Or you believe this guy who says that because a judge is of Mexican ancestry, he was born in Illinois, Indiana, but his parents were from Mexico, therefore he can't be a neutral judge. I mean, he said so many things. It's really hard to know what a Trump administration is going to do. I mean, Japan, for instance, he said, they've got to pay up. So how much more money do they have to pay? He's also said, if North Korea has nuclear weapons, if South Korea, Japan want to have nuclear weapons, maybe that's better, he said. I mean, so is he actually going to encourage Japan to have nuclear weapons? Nobody knows. Right. So there is a lot of uncertainty, I think.
Well, obviously he touched a chord in the American public. And I think the biggest loser here is the contemporary American media machine.
Sure, it is.
I think that they've lost a lot of credibility. They've got lots of explaining to do. And nobody really predicted. I mean, even here in Japan, smart people whose job it is to look at this and study it and predict what's going to happen in the foreign ministry or even in the prime minister's residence, got it wrong. And maybe they were basing their analysis on different kinds of media that they were getting, contemporary media, internet media, but it seems like
well, you all are just intellectualizing about this, and you're forgetting again the emotional connection that he made with people. And Michael and I are going to disagree, and we'll continue to disagree about Trump. But I had members of my family support Trump, and I don't think that they are racist and bigoted. They had concerns about illegal immigration. They wanted restrictions on that. And by the way, so did many of those Hispanic voters who voted for Trump. They also want people to come in legally as opposed to crossing the border. I've been along the U.S.-Mexico border. I've ridden with Border Patrol, and it is people coming back over and over again, many of them who lose their lives. And of course, they're attracted to the American dream. But I think what people responded to emotionally was this sense of making America strong, making America great. Right. It sounds very simplistic, but this is America. This is metal shortcuts. And all of those op-eds against Trump and all of the writings in the New York Times, it failed to put Hillary Clinton in the White House for whatever reason. We are not as intellectual in the United States as maybe we pretend to be. Not everybody goes to Harvard and Georgetown. Not everybody is a Japan hand. Not everybody can see from the top and look down. I saw from the bottom and I looked up and I thought Trump was going to win. I thought he was going to win the popular vote and I thought he was going to lose the electoral.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be the opposite. But the remark by Hillary Clinton about the deplorables, I thought that was it. And then when the Access Hollywood video was released, it was a awful election in many respects. But again, the decision has been made. And now to see people say never, never again, it's really disheartening to me because I want the country to come together. I am such a patriot about the United States. And I think U.S. Japan relations will be just fine. I don't think we get so focused on Trump and we forget that there are going to be thousands, if not millions of people coming out of the closet saying he was always a good man. I'll work for that guy. All of a sudden, he's going to have a lot of people in his court because everybody loves a winner.
The elites, this is the first time in American history that no member of the elite came out for him. The elites of journalism, you might have Fox News, on your side, but otherwise, the literate, studious, high-level people all went for Hillary Clinton. And it was irrespective of party affiliation. What is he going to fill his cabinet with? You're saying they're the people, the salt of the earth, whatever. Well, unfortunately, these are technical and specialist. These are not something you can just pick up by sitting in an office and say, well, I'll just pick up a briefing paper and I'll become an expert at it. You need experts who have been working in something for years and years and years.
And we had experts also running the policy toward Vietnam. I mean, we've had a lot of experts in our history, and how well has that worked out for us?
Groupthink is another issue entirely. Oh, that's fine. You can talk about
the fog of war.
Mistakes.
Right.
But nevertheless, never before in American history has there ever been an incoming cabinet where there is no one who's a specialist in anything. I just can't say that. I can say that with some.
Glenn? I mean, we don't know.
I can say that with some confidence. And again, maybe
We're in day one of trying to really reconcile with this outcome.
No, maybe Glen knows people who will work in this administration.
I would like to see Glen.
Well, you know, I think that there are. I mean, he has Newt Gingrich and Jeff Sessions and Rudy Giuliani and Chris Christie and these people who've been supporting him, who apparently will be in some positions to advise him, and then. But I mean, I do agree with you. I mean, this is the first time, I think, in the last decades that as someone who didn't have a Washington experience or didn't have experience in government is coming in. I think Dwight Eisenhower was the last person who was not a political person who came into government, but at least he had some Washington experience, having been a general and so forth. So it will be interesting to see whether he can, President Trump will be able to do things based on his experience as a business person and bringing that to Washington,
right?
Because he's going to have to deal with Congress, he's going to have to deal with the whole bureaucracy, and so I don't think any of us really knows what he actually is going to do. I mean, he said so many different things, and to what extent he's going to actually try to do them and how successful he will be in accomplishing them is still, I think, really open to question.
A dramatic shift in American politics. As the dust settles, we will continue to report on this to you. Please stay tuned.